Hello and welcome back to Shoestring Studios, episode 4. Hope everyone is well. In this episode, I want to show you how I have gone about tackling how the SSD drive was installed in the Mac Pro when I received it, why I'm finding it difficult to get a permanent solution right now. Also, then I'm going to show you how I've recently installed a USB 3 card, so I've got full USB 3 connectivity on the Mac Pro, and I think also super speed USB 3, which I think is more high performance than standard USB 3. So that's what we're going to look at in this video. It's going to be quite short. You're not having to see my face again, which is always a bonus. So let's look at the SSD drive first. So let's open up the Mac and take a look inside. So just opening a latch there on the end. Now pulling the side panel off. You can see all the stuff inside now, the interior of the Mac. So there it is. That's my SSD drive. The blue square on it, Core. It's a brand, and this is a flying lead here. I'm detaching with my hand. So that's a flying lead taking the connection from the SSD drive to the main board. And as you can see, it's fixed to the mid-section fan assembly, which is attached to the main board via two posi drive or Phillips head screws. So I'm going to take those out now and get the fan assembly out. Yeah, because it's got no weight in it. The SSD drive, like just a double-sided sticky pad, will easily hold fan assembly. And to be honest, it could probably operate for years and it would be absolutely fine. But I don't want this to be the permanent solution for this SSD drive to be attached to a fan assembly. So we'll see both screws are out now. So we'll see the underside of the fan assembly and how this slots into the aluminium chassis. So it's got kind of 2 feet that lock into place the drive assembly to the center shelf, the mid shelf of the aluminium subframe. Also important to note this, I didn't know this when I was taking it out, but this is an important point. So where the arrow's indicating here, the graphics card has a kind of lip on it or edge that slots into the bottom, like a bottom channel in the fan assembly. So when you're putting it back in, you have to navigate that in as well, like they have to slot together. So that's important to note. I didn't know that until I did try and put it back in. So it's out now. We'll see me using a serrated blade knife. To me, this seemed to be the best solution to get the SSD drive off the fan assembly, because trying to pull it off with the sticky pad, which was sticking it on very strongly, I thought I'd mechanically overstress the SSD drive and crack it or split it and basically break it. So there was enough gap between the SSD drive and the fan assembly for me to saw through the sticky pad holding it on. So this is what I'm doing here. I've slightly sped it up and I got it off, and no damage to either. As you will see, I'm probably trying to wedge it off a little bit with my blade now. Yeah, so it just kind of I managed to pull the rest off the back of the SSD drive and the fan assembly, and that was fine. So this is the solution I've come up with for temporarily at the moment. It's the solution I'm using now. So I've got like the SSD drive attached by one screw to an aluminium drive sled. I think it's a smaller size diameter screw than would be designed for the cutouts and the holes in the sled, because they're there to take a 3.5-inch HDD drive, which I think would be taken 4mm M4 screws, and I think the SSD drive takes M3. So I attached it with one screw, and therefore I can rotate it around a bit, which I needed to do to get it in this place so the flying lead would reach to it. so that it kind of pivot it round the back of the end of the fan assembly, reattach the flying lead, and then push it all the way in, and it works fine. It's been working fine ever since I've done this, so there's no problem here. So it's a temporary solution. It's not ideal. Ideally, I want the SSD drive to fit to the SATA connections on the main board, so as it would do, as a HDD drive would do. But unfortunately, there is no off-the-shelf solution available in the UK for that. In the US, there's you can get engineered aluminium drive sleds that have special kind of like fittings on them, so you can attach an SSD drive and then push it in, and that'll connect directly to the main board. But they're not available in the UK. I did buy two 3D printed drive sled adapters, but they're just not up to the job. They're too brittle, they didn't work. Bought two and both of them failed, so I won't dwell on that one. So this is the solution I'm using at the moment. It's not ideal, but it's better than, I feel it's better than having the SSD drive attached to the fan assembly. So next, we're going to look at the installation of the USB 3 card. Here we can see the box end of the USB 3 card, which gives you the brand and the spec of the card. Now I could have got a cheaper card than this, but as you can see, it does look quite high quality there. It's got two large inductors on it. I could have got a cheaper card, but some of the reviews of cheaper cards were kind of saying there's difficulty in getting them to work. This one definitely was being recommended as like, it's just plug and play. That is the case. That was the case for me. Put it in and it worked fine. So here we can see there's a gap already there in the kind of the PCI slot kind of bay. I think that's where I took out a graphics card that wasn't working, so that's why there's a gap there. I'm unscrewing the spring screws there, the kind of like bar, the kind of retention bar that keeps your PCI cards in place. And I'm going to go ahead and slot the USB 3 card in here now. So you've got 3 available PCI Express, full-length PCI Express slots in a Mac Pro. This card, and as with many cards, you will get now and will fit a Mac Pro, are not full-length. As you can see, they're not full-length cards. You've got like 2 stubs, one's a bit wider than the other, and then you've got a whole lot of the connector block on the main board that's not being filled by the USB 3 card, and that's because they're, I guess, they're the shorter PCI Express type connectors. So if you line it up, you should be able to line up the metal faceplate behind the main board, line it up carefully, and then line it up that end where my thumb is, where the kind of connector block goes. Push it in. Don't be afraid to kind of push it in firmly, but obviously if it doesn't feel like it's going to go in at all, don't force it, because obviously you could break the card, you could twist the card or break the connection on the card, but don't be afraid to give it a bit of a push. Sometimes those PCI Express slots can be quite stiff, so give it a push in. There you go, it's seated fairly quickly there. And you can see at the very top there is my HDD drive dangling from a aluminium sled as designed, as per the design. So that's the I guess what I'm calling the compression strip or retention strip. You've got to make sure you got that oriented the right way up. It's kind of the screws aren't kind of central, aren't kind of centered on the bar, they're kind of slightly off center, and are on springs, so just screw that back in. It's a high-speed USB 3 card, this one as well, so it gives you something called super speed USB 3, which I guess is running faster than standard USB 3. And yeah, I've not had any problems with it to date. It's worked straight out of the box and given me really good transfer rates with my portable USB 3 hard drive. So that's it, my friends. Hope you've enjoyed this video. Hope it's been helpful to you. Any comments or questions or feedback you want to give me, please leave below the video. Thanks for watching. And we'll see you on the next episode of Shoestring Studios. Bye for now. Take care.